The main entrance isn't for janitors. Use the back door, don't let the guests see you. There are doors that exist solely to keep outsiders out. Yet eventually, there come moments strong enough to open even those doors no one ever thought belonged to them. What truly has the power to change a life? It's not a lottery ticket, nor is it blind luck. Sometimes, all it takes is being seen just once by someone, a look of empathy, or simply a choice to keep moving forward, even when the whole world has once turned its back. This is the story of a woman who quietly cleans up what others leave behind. She's used to taking the back entrance every day, but she's never let anyone see her bow her head to fate. Some lives are changed in boardrooms. Others change quietly, with a mop, with patience, and through days when no one bothers to remember your name. How do you change your life when you've spent it being told you're invisible? The answer might just be found tonight. Angela stumbled as the manager's hand blocked her way. Use the service route. Don't spoil the guest's view. People around her paused for a moment. A woman in a red silk dress edged away, her perfume sharp in Angela's nose. A quiet laugh flickered at the bar. Someone glanced back at her, then pretended to bury themselves in their phone. A child tugged at their mother's sleeve, pointed at Angela, whispering something. The mother hurriedly pulled her child away, avoiding any prolonged glance. Angela forced herself to keep her balance, knuckles white on the cart handle. A bottle of cleaner slipped off, rolled once, and popped its cap, the liquid spreading in a pale streak across the polished stone floor. No one helped. Everyone just stepped back, leaving her alone in the dazzling, oversized lobby. The manager stood, arms crossed, face completely blank. Angela knelt, hastily picking up the bottle, the harsh chemical smell stinging her nose. She kept her head low, tangled hair hiding some of the eyes fixed on her. A camera shutter sounded quick, soft, then gone beneath the lobby's elegant music. Someone muttered, "Why do they keep that kind of person here?" Angela straightened, breathing hard, a chill running down her spine. She pushed the cart, moving out of the spotlight, her shoulders sinking lower, feet dragging as if she'd walked through winter. Behind her, laughter, the clack of high heel, and the hush of whispers all blended, stretching all the way to the end of the corridor. Upstairs, behind a huge pane of glass, an old man stood silent, his eyes following Angela's every move. No one saw him. No one guessed that everything was only just beginning. Angela pushed her cleaning cart down the outer corridor, the golden light from the gala reflecting on the polished stone floor. Upbeat music and laughter spilled all the way to the end of the hall, a place people in uniforms like hers rarely dared to step into. Just a few minutes left in her shift. She planned to cut through the main lobby to shorten the way back to the supply room. But before she could turn, a voice called out, "Hey, what are you doing here? This hall isn't your place." Angela froze. Party guests were starting to drift back to their tables, stage lights casting a bright streak across her face. The blue dress of a woman guest stood out in the crowd, a glass of red wine in hand, her eyes glued to her phone as she walked. Suddenly, a phone camera lens pointed straight at Angela, followed by a mocking laugh. "Look at this. The black cleaning lady likes the main hall too." Everyone at the table turned to look, eyes a mix of curiosity and amusement. A young man live streaming on TikTok swung his phone deliberately, speaking loudly enough for everyone. "You cleaning, not parading, know your place." Laughter erupted, loud but cold as stone. Angela stood frozen, both hands gripping the cart handle so tightly the plastic bit into her skin. She wanted to leave, but before she could move, the woman with the wine tipped her glass, pouring red wine all over the floor and splashing Angela's feet. "Clean it up, don't leave a mark," you hear the woman said loudly, drawing out every word. The hotel manager appeared instantly, face unreadable, but voice icy. "Angela, get down and clean it." The guests are watching. The group of staff stood pressed to the wall, some whispering, some stifling laughter. More phones went up, their screens glinting under the stage lights. Angela bent down, her hands shaking as she grabbed a cloth and wiped each streak of wine from the freezing stone. The spotlight beamed directly onto her graying hair, casting a long shadow on the floor. She heard soft slippers, the swish of silk skirts, someone's finger tapping a phone screen. "Black Maid Show. The words popped up on someone's story as they hit send. For a moment, as Angela glanced up, her eyes met those of an old man sitting quietly in the corner, his gaze sad and strangely calm in the noisy crowd. He didn't laugh, didn't speak, just silently watched it all. But everyone else, from managers and staff to party guests, said nothing. They just kept looking, kept laughing, and left Angela to wipe away her own humiliation under hundreds of staring eyes. Angela bent down, her head nearly touching the cold floor. Every streak of wine she wiped away only seemed to spread further, soaking into the worn rag and the hem of her uniform pants. The smell of bleach, red wine, and carpet stained with leftover food mixed together, so thick in the air it was hard to breathe. All around her, the gala music blared on, but above her, a white spotlight shone straight down, exposing every tiny movement Angela made like a stain that needed to be erased from the party. The high heels of the woman from earlier clicked right beside her, then suddenly stopped right by Angela's ear. "Clean this properly for me. I don't want any stains on my new shoes." The atmosphere grew even heavier. Another young staff member snapped photo after photo, then whispered, "New story here, black maid show." Someone walked by, purposely bumping Angela's shoulder, then faked an apology, their giggles stretching out the humiliation just a little longer. The manager still stood with arms crossed in the distance, face cold as stone, only occasionally glancing up at the wall clock as if counting every second of Angela's work. A female staff member leaned into her colleague and murmured, "Guess nobody will protect us but ourselves, huh?" Angela's hands trembled, fingertips turning purple from the cold. A single drop of wine left on the floor glinted red, reflecting her tiny shadow, reminding her for a fleeting moment of the last time her family was whole, a long-ago dinner, her husband still alive, her daughter by her side, laughter bursting in their cramped little apartment. But that memory passed quickly. Now, Angela could only take a deep breath and grip the wet cloth tighter, refusing to let herself cry. She kept wiping slowly, thoroughly leaving no excuse for anyone to complain. Her sleeve was already soaked, speckled red with wine. Angela's eyes grew red too, but she kept her head bowed, as if the smaller she made herself, the less she would be seen. From across the room, the old man continued to watch quietly, tapping his fingers lightly on the table, his deep gaze seeming to memorize every detail. Another camera shutter clicked, and somewhere in that crowd of elegantly dressed people, a final burst of laughter erupted just before Angela stood up and quietly left the circle of stairs, leaving behind all the humiliation, wound tight inside herself. Angela left the gala hall, her steps slowing as the doors slammed shut behind her. The hotel corridor lights glowed a dull yellow, casting a hazy layer over her shoulders already stained with patches of wine. She pushed her cart down to the small supply room at the end of the hallway, where only the smell of cleaning chemicals and the constant hum of the ventilation fan filled the night. In the cramped room, Angela quickly changed out of her uniform, set her damp shoes aside, and folded her cleaning rag as neatly as possible. Her hands, freshly dried, were still red and stinging, each tiny cut on her fingers, a reminder of the humiliation she'd just endured less than half an hour ago. She checked her phone, the cracked screen lighting up with 2 unread messages. "Mom, we have art class at school today. Don't forget to buy watercolors, okay?" A missed call from her elderly mother back home. No voicemail left. Angela sat in silence for a while, back against the cold wall. On the table, her dinner packed in a plastic box since noon remained untouched. The water had gone cold, the bread dry and hard. She ate absent-mindedly, tasting nothing but a salty tang on her tongue, unsure whether it was from the food or the lingering sting of humiliation. Through the supply room door, staff footsteps drifted down the corridor. Someone paused and whispered softly, "She'll probably get called into the office tomorrow. Heard the guests complained about the gala?" Angela closed her eyes for a moment, inhaling deeply the smell of bleach, fabric, and the first cool wind of summer all mixing together. Quietly, she took out her wallet, counted the last few dollars of the day, and jotted quickly in her notebook, watercolors for child $3, medicine for mom $8. Outside, night had fallen completely. Angela put her jacket back on, tied up her hair, and glanced quickly at her reflection, a tired face. Another strand of silver hair, but her nose still straight, chin still slightly raised, an old habit to keep a bit of pride at the end of the day. Before switching off the light, she looked down at her hands, red, swollen, but still the hands that had raised a child, kept a home, and managed to get through one more day. The supply room door closed behind her. Once again, Angela stepped out into the darkness, quietly, as if no one had ever seen her pass by. Angela washed her hands, straightened her faded uniform, and picked up the final room assignment for the day, a VIP suite on the top floor. Outside, night had fallen, and the hotel corridors were nearly deserted, only the yellow lights casting long shadows of Angela along the carpeted floor. As she stacked her mop and bucket, she checked her phone, only 4% battery left. Her daughter's message from earlier, still unanswered. Each step up the staircase felt heavier than the last. Her shoulders weighed down after a day full of pressure. At the floor service counter, a female staff member walked by and clicked her tongue. "Not done yet." The VIP guest in room 804 complained the floor was still sticky with wine yesterday. "Make sure you clean it properly this time." Angela didn't answer, just nodded slightly. In her mind, the humiliation of last night's gala echoed on, the laughter still ringing in her ears. Her hands trembled as she swiped her card to unlock the door. The smell of bleach mixed with the expensive perfume of the VIP room making her wrinkle her nose. Suite 814 was unusually quiet. The living room lamp was still on, casting a gentle light over the white leather sofa. Suddenly, from inside the bedroom, there was a strange sound, as if something heavy had fallen to the floor. Then silence. Angela froze, still gripping the mop, holding her breath. She glanced around, hesitated for a few seconds. The hotel rules said never to enter a room without the guest's permission, but the sense of unease grew stronger. Another sound rang out this time, a muffled voice, short, weak. Angela decided to gently push open the bedroom door, calling softly, "Sir, are you okay?" No response. The muffled voice faded, leaving only the ticking of the wall clock stretching out in the quiet air. Her heart pounded, every sense on edge. It was too late to wait any longer. Angela let go of the mop, hurried inside, where the nightlight cast a shadow over a figure curled up on the floor. Angela hurried into the bedroom. On the carpet, the elderly guest lay on his side, face pale, lips turning blue. One hand gripped the armrest of a chair. The other was clenched over his chest. The nightlight cast deep shadows across the wrinkles on his forehead, his eyes half closed, as if he barely had the strength to open them. Panic hammered in Angela's chest, but she wouldn't let herself freeze. She rushed over, knelt beside him, and gently shook his shoulder. "Sir, can you hear me?" He only gasped for air, his breathing raspy and labored. Angela instantly recalled the first aid training she'd received. She reached for the room phone, hands trembling as she dialed emergency. "Emergency guest in suite 804, can't breathe, possible heart attack. Please, hurry." Hanging up, she scanned the room, remembering that every VIP suite had a first aid kit. She opened the cabinet, rummaging desperately, heart pounding and sweat breaking out on her brow. She found a small bottle of nitroglycerin, followed the instructions, placed the tablet under the man's tongue, wiped his forehead with a warm cloth, and kept him lying on his side, all the while repeating calmly, "Sir, stay with me. Help is coming. Please stay awake." Outside the window, the sound of ambulance sirens wailed in the distance. In that tense moment, Angela realized she was gripping the old man's hand, a thin hand with veins bulging, holding tightly to hers, not wanting to let go. A glimmer of light flickered in the guest's eyes. He struggled to look at Angela, his lips moving with great difficulty. What's your name?" Angela just shook her head, answered in a trembling but steady voice, "I'm just the cleaning lady." The guest tried to smile, his breath weaker now, his eyes shining with something like memory and gratitude. When the paramedics rushed in, Angela let go and stepped back, her hands still warm. They lifted him onto the stretcher, blue and red lights flashing, his shadow stretching across the white carpet. Before being wheeled out, the old man looked back at Angela for a long moment, a deep, silent gaze, as if trying to give her something bigger than words. Only after everyone had left did Angela sink down, hands still shaking, tears falling quietly. No one knew if they were from fear, exhaustion, or because for the first time in years, she felt truly seen by another human being. Out in the corridor, the ambulance sirens faded. Everything fell silent again, leaving Angela alone in the vast room, with only the ticking clock and a lingering feeling she still couldn't name. The next morning, Angela arrived for her shift earlier than usual. Her eyes were still swollen, her fingers stiff from cleaning late into the night. In the staff break room, the atmosphere was unusually quiet. Colleagues who passed by only nodded slightly. Some even turned their backs as she entered. Whispers lingered behind her. "I heard she had trouble with a VIP guest last night. She might be called up today." Angela didn't ask, just bowed her head and changed into her uniform. No sooner had she pulled the shirt over her head than the manager appeared at the door, face cold as a sheet of paper. "Angela, come to the meeting room now. There's something we need to discuss." No one looked her in the eye as Angela quietly walked down the long hallway. On the wall, the clock showed 8:27. Each step grew heavier, the polished stone floor stretching out like a runway with no escape. She stood in front of the meeting room door, heart pounding, sweat beading on her forehead despite the blasting air conditioning. Inside, voices drifted out, young staff giggling before going silent when the manager entered. Angela sat alone in the row of waiting chairs, her name tag hanging crookedly from her chest. On the notice board opposite, a hastily taped up resignation notice, its red letters flashing like a chilling omen, caught her eye. A female staff member walked by, murmuring into her phone. "Yeah, pretty sure that cleaning lady's out. Manager just called her in and looked pissed." 10 minutes, then 20 crawled by. Angela felt as if the whole hotel was frozen in a single moment of anticipation. Each breath grew heavier, each footstep echoing an ominous feeling in her chest. Suddenly, the meeting room door swung open. The manager appeared, flanked by two tense-looking front desk staff. "Come in, Angela." She stood up, palms already slick with sweat. Before stepping inside, Angela glanced down at her fingertips, the scratches from the night before still fresh. The meeting room door closed behind her, shutting Angela off from the world outside where rumors, stares, and judgment still pursued her every step. Inside the meeting room, the air was so cold Angela instinctively pulled her collar tighter. She hovered beside the closed door, hesitated for a moment, then sat on the farthest edge of an empty chair. The manager was already there, gray suit pressed to perfection, his eyes sweeping over Angela as if tallying inventory rather than seeing a person. Other staff members filed in, pulling out their chairs, the scrape of legs against the floor, a quiet, grating sound. No one spoke to anyone else, only quick, stolen glances exchanged above the long meeting table. For a moment, Angela felt the whole room shrinking, leaving no space to breathe. The manager opened the file on the table, voice even and low. "Angela, regarding last night, you entered the gala area without authorization and caused dissatisfaction for a VIP guest." He didn't look up, just read aloud from the report as if he'd memorized every line. A young staff member shot a glance at Angela, then at the manager, and quickly added, "I saw online a guest posted a story complaining about the cleaning staff, said the floor was dirty, service was poor." Another female staffer at the end of the table clicked her tongue, her words just loud enough to be heard. "There's a lot of gossip outside, even photos of dirty uniforms." Those whispers made everyone fall even more silent, thickening the tension. Angela gripped her shirt hem, her knees pressed up against the cold edge of the table. She wanted to speak up and explain, but as soon as she opened her mouth, the manager raised a hand to cut her off. "The hotel's rules are clear. Every mistake in premium areas impacts our reputation. Situations like this should be dealt with seriously." The room thickened into a heavy, stifling quiet. All eyes turned to the manager, only Angela kept her head down, staring at her hands, the scratches from the night before standing out even more clearly. He paused, dropping his voice further. "But, considering your years of service, I will make a special consideration." No one added another word. The hum of the air conditioner continued, colder than necessary. In the far corner, a young staff member tapped a pen on the table. eyes deliberately avoiding Angela, as if afraid to meet something unnamed. Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. The manager shot a glance at the glass door, then quickly turned back to his file, pretending nothing was about to happen. Angela froze, every sense numb. Here, no one asked what she had done. No one mentioned that last night she'd saved someone. Everyone waited for a verdict, and everyone seemed certain the outcome was already decided. The air in the conference room thickened with every word from the manager. When he finally closed the file, all eyes shifted away from Angela, each person having already drawn their own conclusions. A female staff member quickly gathered her papers and left her chair in a hurry, making an effort not to look where Angela sat. The group of younger employees filed out into the hallway, the rapid clack of high heels echoing on the floor, leaving the large room, for a moment, with only Angela inside. The manager was the last to stand, gathering his documents. He paused beside her, his voice dropping a note. "Stay here and wait for the board's decision." Without another word, he closed the door behind him, the soft click of the lock sounding like a full stop. Angela sat in silence, her hands still tightly clasped together on her lap. On the table, a tiny scratch left behind by someone else caught the overhead light suddenly. That tiny detail became the focal point, something to hold on to in a sea of emptiness. The air was stifling, the sound of the air conditioner growing louder, each gust of cold air seeming to seep into her skin. She looked up at the clock. The minute hand crawled slowly. Out in the hallway, a phone rang. Voices drifted in from far away, all of it blurred and distant. Angela reached into her bag for her old phone. The screen scratched, the battery nearly drained, barely a few red bars left. There were no new messages, just a reminder from her daughter sent early that morning. "Mom, my finals are this afternoon." She felt a sting at the corners of her eyes. But the tears only welled up quietly, not falling. Angela took a deep breath, telling herself to stay calm. But the more she tried, the more every feeling helplessness, hurt, fear seemed to choke her chest. The conference room felt bigger, colder, and more alien than ever. She didn't know what was waiting for her behind that closed door. All she knew was that she had never felt so small. Time in the conference room seemed to stop. Angela remained seated, her back pressed against the chair, eyes fixed on the wall clock. The minute hand ticked forward, but every time she looked up, it felt as if she'd just survived a long winter without a single ray of sunlight. In the hallway, footsteps and whispered voices occasionally drifted through the door's crack. Sometimes there was a faint laugh. Sometimes the sound of a door opening and closing in a hurry. Outside, a group of staff gathered, glancing through the small glass window in the conference room door, then walking off together, whispering things Angela couldn't make out, but she knew they weren't saying anything good. At the end of the hallway, the manager's voice rang out, this time not as calm as usual. "Keep this quiet until we have an official decision. The VIP guest just arrived. Don't let anything leak out." Angela listened, unease growing inside her. She turned to the conference room window, where her own reflection stared back, hair streaked with gray, eyes ringed with exhaustion. Outside, drizzle swept past the glass, bringing a chill into the already cold room. Suddenly, a tall stranger appeared at the far end of the corridor, flanked by bodyguards in black suits. The entire staff straightened up, some bowing hastily, others whispering. "Looks like a major shareholder. Never seen him here before." Angela caught only fragments of the conversation, but the tightness in her chest grew heavier. A female receptionist slipped into the conference room, setting a glass of water on the table in front of her, and whispered, "There's a VIP guest here. You may be called in for a private meeting." The receptionist slipped out, closing the door gently. Angela stared at the glass of water, her hands trembling too much to pick it up. Outside, the silhouettes continued to move. Everything seemed to slow down, as if time itself was waiting for a turning point. Angela buried her head in her hands. She had never expected anything from days like this. But deep inside, fear and a tiny flicker of hope kept trading places, swelling and receding in her chest. The conference room darkened as clouds swept across the window. The hallway lights outside came on, casting the shadow of someone stopping just outside the door, but no one entered. Everything was still waiting for something Angela herself dared not name. The sound of knocking broke the heavy atmosphere in the meeting room. Angela startled and looked up, her heart pounding harder than ever. A receptionist opened the door slightly and called softly, "Mrs. Angela, please come outside for a moment. There's a VIP guest who wants to meet you privately." Angela stood up, her legs almost numb. She followed the receptionist down the hallway, hearing her own heartbeat pounding in her chest with every step. Outside, the hotel corridor was suddenly more crowded than usual. Staff gathered in small groups, all whispering. Their eyes turned toward the end of the hallway, where two men in black suits stood stiffly, obviously bodyguards. The atmosphere seemed to thicken. The hotel manager appeared as well, trying to maintain a calm face but pressing his lips together. When Angela passed by, he glanced quickly at the bodyguards, then looked away again, his fingers tapping lightly on the nearby table as if looking for something to hold on to. From the end of the corridor, an elderly man with gray hair, impeccably dressed, holding a cane, walked slowly toward them. He said nothing, just stopped and watched Angela for a long time. All the whispering immediately quieted, as if his presence could shatter the atmosphere at any moment. A curious female staff member pressed herself against the wall, secretly taking out her phone to record the scene. Another employee whispered, "There's a major shareholder coming to inspect today. I've never seen anyone arrive with bodyguards like that." Angela stopped in front of the old guest, her heart beating so hard that she had to squeeze the hem of her shirt to keep from shaking. The bodyguards stood silently on either side, saying nothing. All the eyes of the staff, manager, and receptionist were on them, curious, fearful, and waiting for something to happen. The old guest looked straight at Angela, his eyes deep and calm, glancing over the scratches on her hands, pausing at the faded name tag on her chest. He nodded slightly, signaling the manager and staff to step back, then said one short sentence, "I want to speak to her alone." The manager was momentarily stunned, hesitated for a few seconds, then stepped aside. The staff buzzed, but no one dared say anything. Angela could only stand still, all her senses stretched tight as a string. No one knew that in just a few minutes, the order in this hotel would be completely overturned. Angela followed the old gentleman into a small room next to the hallway, a place where the golden light reflected off polished wood walls. Everything so quiet she could hear her own heartbeat. As soon as the door closed, the space was instantly cut off from all the prying eyes outside. The old man sat down, gently placing his cane to the side, never taking his eyes off Angela for a second. In those few silent moments, all the humiliation of the gala night rushed back, spotlights on her hair, the laughter, the spilled wine, her trembling hand on the cold floor. The old man looked up, his voice low but warm. "What's your name?" Angela hesitated slightly, clutching the hem of her shirt, trying to keep her voice steady. "Eshereen, Angela." He nodded, glancing at her faded name tag. "How many years have you worked here?" "Almost 12 years, Angela answered quietly. Silence fell again. His eyes paused on her hands, still red from last night's shift, then looked up at her. "Why haven't you left when everyone treats you so badly?" Angela didn't know how to respond. She lowered her head, and in her mind came all sorts of voices, her daughter calling mom every night, her elderly mother asking about her health, her husband's voice and distant memories all blending into one very small answer. "Because I still have my family, my child, and I don't want to give up just because people refuse to see me." The old man was silent, the corners of his mouth lifting in the faintest encouraging smile. He took a small note from his pocket, placing it on the table in front of Angela, his gaze suddenly deeper and heavier. "Yesterday, at the gala, I saw everything." Angela instinctively looked up, eyes wide, unsure whether to be scared or surprised. He looked straight at her, his voice soft but perfectly clear. "Not everyone is brave enough to endure, stay silent, and do their job well, even with a whole room watching. And not everyone is willing to save a stranger, even when nobody remembers their name." Angela blinked in confusion, not understanding why someone like him would care about her. The old man just added one short sentence, but it froze the air in the room. "Sometimes all it takes is a single moment to change everything. He stood up, picked up his cane, and looked toward the door. Let's go. It's time for everyone to know the truth. Angela stood motionless, filled with fear but also a flicker of hope. She didn't know what would happen next, only that, out there, the air was ready to erupt. The old gentleman slowly stepped out of the room, followed by Angela and the two men in black suits. The hallway was packed with staff, managers, and receptionists. Everyone stopped, their eyes locked on the group, so silent you could hear the old man's leather shoes tapping softly against the stone floor. The hotel manager started, quickly hurrying over, his face turning pale. Excuse me, sir, do you need to speak with the board? The old gentleman didn't answer right away. He simply looked straight at everyone, his gaze as sharp as a blade and as calm as midnight water. He raised his hand, signaling the bodyguards to open the doors to the meeting room, then slowly walked in, turning to face the entire staff, the management, and even a few curious VIP guests gathered at the doorway. The whole room was thick with anticipation. The old man set his cane on the table, looking up at each person in turn, his voice clear and cold, every word cutting without ever needing to be loud. I am the person who has just purchased this entire hotel chain. Every eye widened, some mouths fell open in disbelief, a few staff whispering, impossible, no way. The room erupted in a heartbeat. But the old gentleman didn't let anyone interrupt. He looked straight at the manager. During the gala the other night, I witnessed everything. He swept his eyes across the staff, enunciating each word. From the humiliation of your employees, to the averted gazes, to the moment a black woman was left to clean up disgrace on the floor while not one of you lifted a hand to help. A young female employee hurriedly lowered her head. A male staff member clenched his fists. The manager stood frozen, unable to speak. The old man turned his cane in his hand, then looked toward Angela, his expression softening. The only person who didn't bow their head that night was not the ones in suits, not those barking orders. It was you, the one who stayed, worked until the very last minute, and more than that, saved my life on a night I could have died. Angela stood silent, tears welling in her eyes, but she did not cry. The whole room seemed frozen in place, only the old man's deep voice echoing through. If there is anyone here who deserves to walk through the front doors as the most respected person in this hotel, it is her. The room was utterly still. Every eye turned toward Angela now. For the first time, they looked at her differently, no longer with contempt, but with a hint of shame, a touch of respect, and a deep, stunned wonder. The meeting room was still in shock, every eye struggling to believe what had just been said. The billionaire, the man who, just minutes before, had been so silent. Now openly, the hotel's new owner looked directly at Angela, his gaze both stern and full of pride. He picked up a folder, set it down in front of all the staff and managers, and spoke in a voice that was calm, needing no emphasis, but carried like a command to everyone in the room. I have decided to appoint Miss Angela, the cleaning lady you all once looked down on, as the guest experience manager of this hotel. From today, she will be responsible for supervising all staff training and service quality control, with a salary 4 times her current one. In addition, I will cover her daughter's full tuition and award a special bonus for her rare dedication and courage. The hotel manager was stunned, his voice hoarse. But, sir, isn't this a bit sudden? The billionaire just looked at him briefly, eyes cold. Sudden wasn't the injustice, the disregard, and the lack of respect for a woman who has served for 12 years, also happening right before all of your eyes in just a few minutes. The staff who had once laughed at Angela now bowed their heads in silence. Some glanced at her with real shame. A female employee hesitantly stepped forward. I'm sorry, Angela. I never thought things would end up like this. Angela didn't reply. She just smiled softly, tears quietly falling not from humiliation, but from the feeling that, for the first time in years, her effort had truly been seen and recognized. The billionaire stepped closer to Angela, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder, his eyes now softer. Thank you for teaching me and this whole place a lesson in respect and patience. The whole room was silent, as if every habit, every old prejudice was being overturned. A new order was being born. right then and there. After the billionaire left the meeting room with his entourage of bodyguards, the entire hotel seemed to be stretched between two worlds, one old and familiar, the other a new order that had just been overturned in a single morning. Staff drifted off into small groups, some quietly gathering up papers, others lingering by the windows, avoiding Angela's gaze. The whisper started. Unbelievable. So the new owner saw everything from the start. I've never seen anyone's life change this fast. The hotel manager still stood frozen in the corner, hands clenched, his face pale. A young female employee who had laughed at Angela during the gala walked up, hesitant. I'm sorry, Angela. I honestly never thought I'd be the one standing behind you one day. Angela didn't hold a grudge. She just nodded gently, a soft smile that left the other girl flustered. She said little, but her eyes still shone with the residue of tears, this time from happiness, not humiliation. In the corridor, some curious VIP guests whispered among themselves, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others looking at Angela with genuine respect. A male staff member, the one who had posted the Black Maid Show story, quietly deleted the video from his phone, then approached awkwardly. I'm sorry. If you ever need anything from now on, just let me know. I really am grateful to you. The hotel atmosphere softened. The snickers and old prejudiced glances seemed to recede. In one corner, a young staff member asked quietly, will you teach us how to serve guests the right way? I want to learn from you. Angela simply nodded, feeling that the change wasn't just from the billionaire's decision, but from the way people's eyes, voices, and attitudes were shifting even in how they viewed themselves. Outside the window, the rain had just stopped. Angela turned to look down the long hallway she'd walked in silence for 12 years. For the first time, everyone looked at her not with curiosity, but with genuine respect. Somewhere in the distance, the radio in the staff room softly played an old song, You're Stronger Than You Think. Angela smiled. Her hands, once used only to clean, now trembled not with fear, but with the knowledge that from today, everything had truly changed. A week after her life-changing promotion, the hotel held a small staff meeting on Monday morning. The atmosphere was different, no more gossip, no more strange looks, no more avoidance out of old habit. Angela appeared in the grand hallway, dressed in her new navy blue suit, the very first manager's uniform of her life, tailored so perfectly it seemed made for a dream she'd never dared to speak aloud. Outside the glass doors, the sunlight was gentle. Angela paused at the main lobby steps, her hand trembling slightly as she placed it on the great door that had been an invisible barrier for 12 years. The door opened this time. No one stopped her. The former manager stepped aside. The front desk staff bowed their heads in greeting, and every look she received was full of respect. Angela walked through the front entrance, slow but steady, each step sinking into her muscles, into memories long past. Light from the lobby flooded her face, casting her shadow long across the polished stone floor. Every staff member, those who once laughed at her, now watched her, and no one smiled. There was only the profound silence of admiration. In the center of the lobby, Angela's daughter, wearing her school uniform, hair tied up, eyes shining with pride, ran to grasp her mother's hand. Mom, today you went through the front door. Angela knelt down, smiled for a long moment, and clear tears rolled down her daughter's cheek as she whispered only one small thank you. Thank you for always believing in me. From across the lobby, the billionaire hotel owner nodded at Angela, his gaze filled with both congratulations and the deepest recognition she'd ever received. Angela needed to say nothing more. She held her daughter's hand, and together they walked through the great hall, bathed in new light, a light meant for those who have persisted quietly and have never bowed to fate. Have you ever thought that just one small moment, a single choice, a glance of recognition could be enough to change someone's entire life? How many times have you felt like a silent shadow, passing through doors the world wanted to keep tightly shut? Do you dare believe that, no matter where you start, every one of us deserves respect and can receive a real chance to change our own life? If today you could send a message to the Angelas out there, those who work quietly, endure, and never give up, what would you say? Would you be ready to seize the chance to transform your own life? If one day it suddenly came knocking, Share your story, your feelings, or simply a moment when you found the strength to rise up in the comments below. Who knows? Your words might become the inspiration someone else needs for their own miracle of transformation. If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to hit subscribe to Unveiled Wealth, the place where every moment of quiet resilience can become the turning point of a lifetime. Let's spread the motivation to live beautifully, because sometimes just one small action, one encouraging word, can change not only your life, but the lives of many others. And if tomorrow you step through a new door, remember, you are the one who gets to choose. And you are the one who can change your own life.